Welcome in to the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast. I'm your host, Warren Jordan, and along with me, as always, is my esteemed co-host, Chad Market. How you doing tonight?
Well, I feel as tired as that intro sounded. There was like
come on.
you hit a low key on that one last week. I was like, dang. You're like, oh, come in.
I had 2 beers last time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's also, yeah, it's good. Life's good. We're a couple weeks into school. We had Big Pauline's 7th birthday this weekend. So that was really fun. We went to one of those, uh, you know, arcade, golf, batting cages things. And I just love how adult they are now. Because, like, this place used to be junky not long ago. Like, we did Eddie's birthday party there a couple years ago, but now it's got like cabanas and TVs. So we had football on the entire time. There's like beer flowing. And I texted you this earlier. It like totally made me think of our birthday parties and how I don't remember. Maybe it was just my mom. Like when I would have a birthday party at Round Table Pizza, I don't remember her ever being there. And so, like, I wonder if that's a change in parenting or if Gazy was really like putting back some wine in the front room while we were all going crazy.
I definitely remember where I went to get more quarters. I know they were there.
Yes.
But that's the extent of it.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's like hand pulling, like, Dad, come play laser tag. And I'm like, I can't wait to do anything more, Paul. That's all I want to do right now. Well, the Bengals are trying to come back. I'm like, please, Lord, let anyone else play. And it's awesome. But it made me really like question, my parents didn't do this, or at least mine. Anyway.
Definitely not. Times have changed for the parenting world.
Probably for the better.
Yep, for sure. Well, life's good here too as well. This is definitely my favorite month of the year. The weather starts to change. I love the transition seasons. The weather's crisp and cool, and youth sports, doing soccer. We're starting to get a mix of rain and sun, which I like. Playing board games by the fire, holidays coming up, football's on. It's like all of the best stuff other than like doing like beach vacation or something is concentrated into this like 6-week window.
Who's playing soccer?
Both kids.
Both kids? Do you coach either of them?
Assistant for both.
That's rad.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yep. But yeah, it's good. It's a good time of year. So tonight, let's talk a little football since that's why we're here. So we're going to lay down some of our opinions on what we've seen so far. We'll try not to just regurgitate whatever people have already heard over the last 2 days, since our takeaways podcasts typically come out a day or two after most others, just because we have very busy lives and we don't do this for a living. But that's okay, because when it comes to Dynasty, there's no rush.
Right.
And values really aren't swinging that wildly, and waivers don't matter. So it's okay to be later in the week with the takes. So that's what we'll be doing tonight on the League of Extraordinary GMs podcast.
Nailed it. Not tired there.
I really wish those 2 buttons were closer together in StreamYard, or maybe even I could make them 1 button and there wouldn't be such a delay. But you know what? That's what editing is for, which I will also edit this out. So
gotta leave it in. It's so much better this way. There's an honesty to it.
Let's just jump in to the things that we want to talk about. with week 2. Again, I want to reiterate, especially for some of the people who are maybe newer to Dynasty, whether it's in our league or others, 1 week of performance typically does not change player value. In some cases, sure. But typically player values are going to move slowly over time, over consistent, repeatable outings, not one-off efforts. So I think that'll be a recurring theme as we move along here. So first up, and first in the league in terms of output and everything, Super Camario and the New Orleans Saints, just like we all predicted.
Yep. 90 points, like 20 allowed, totally expected.
Yeah, and week 1 was not shocking against the worst team in the league.
Right, that's right.
So, even going into week 2, like I had Kamara on my bench. I did not expect a very good outing for the Saints against the Cowboys, for the Cowboys home opener in Dallas.
Right.
But
just signed their 2 big guys. Yeah.
Pulled the Cowboys' pants down.
That's a pantless party.
Yeah. It just goes to show you, I think the biggest takeaway, well, there's a couple things, and there's one that came to mind that I didn't put in the show notes. First one, obviously, the difference like a good offensive coordinator makes against lack of an offensive coordinator. Clint Kubiak is good, and everybody's been talking about it all week, right? Like, so last year, last in motion, last in play action. This year, first in both. And what do you know? It's working. But that's been a repetitive topic this week, so we won't dig too deep into that. The other thing that I, looking back on this game, neglected to internalize and use in my decision to bench Kamara was, with no Taysom Hill out there, like, he got hurt, right?
Yeah.
Or did he get hurt during this game?
He got hurt during it. So
okay. Yeah. So moving forward, for the last couple of years, Kamara, it's been extremely frustrating with him watching Taysom Hill vulture touchdowns and get, basically like chewing up 30% of what would usually have been high value touches for Kamara. If Taysom Hill's going to be hurt, like, light him up, man. He's going to go off.
Right. Well, and I think there was definitely something to be said about the preseason rhetoric, right? That Taysom Hill was also going to line up in the backfield, that he was going to be used so much more. And I didn't watch this game. I watched a little bit of the Carolina game. But Kamara, in the way this offense is working, like, then let Taysom Hill be back there and work like a I don't know, fullback, right? Like, they don't have a fullback on their roster. So I think the other thing, I mean, they do Adam Prentice, but he doesn't play nearly as much as Taysom Hill does. I think what's amazing to me, and I put this to you because your aggressive banter about the guy I'm heaviest on this year in all my leagues in Cup, who's old. Would you say, and you told me to sell him, and you were right, because he is not sellable today. I tried everywhere. What do you think about Kamara? Because it's sort of the same, right? Like, he hasn't been good. He's been pretty bad for 3 years. Now, Cup's a little bit different because the Rams suck. No offensive line anymore. Everybody's hurt. But to what you just said, is this a sell high time on Kamara, or is this ride it out?
Well, since we're always talking dynasty here, I guess it depends on what your plans are for the season.
Right.
If you're competing, like, no, I absolutely wouldn't. Why? Just
but
go
you're
win.
not competing.
So I have him in our Superflex league. So yeah, I am.
No, got it.
I don't have
Who,
him in single QB.
who's got him in single QB? Do you know?
Nick does. So yeah, he's already on 2 competing teams.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but yeah, in general, in Dynasty, I'm usually interested in selling before the end, but
Right.
then maybe I will. We'll see. It's also fun to have a team. Anyway, let's keep it rolling. Next up, you want to start this one off, and then I'll add in my thoughts.
Yeah. So Marvin Harrison Jr. Was awesome. He was awesome in a way that, like, I think is you could temper. I think the whole he was awesome thing is like, I mean, he had 8 targets and 4 catches and 2 touchdowns, and truthfully should have had 6 catches and 4 touchdowns. And I think that's a usage thing. It was pretty cool to watch. So I was telling you before, so as not to just repeat, or well, it's probably repeating too, but like to actually like watch, you can just go to YouTube and type in every snap Marvin Harrison Jr. He was getting open. Pretty cool how he just seems to run. He looks like he's running slowly, but he topped out. I think they said at like 21 miles an hour, which is clearly not slowly. But he just kind of is so big that as he runs, he does pull away from people. So like the deep Superman touchdown was sick. He just pulled away from his DB. But there were a number of times where he was wide open, and he, to what RC said, he doesn't have the route running ability for that back shoulder catch yet. He turned the wrong way both times. First time he turned in, and it was right on his right hand, and he missed it. And the second time when he turned out, I don't know if he didn't catch it or like with his eyes, he didn't see it. It was kind of weird to watch. I watched it a couple times, but the ball was like hit his shoulder. It was a perfect pass. So I think that he looked really good, and he could have had an explosive game. I still think that it's fair for people to have faded him because going at the 1-2 turn, I don't think he's going to put up, top 10, top 8 wide receiver numbers. But it was nice to see the Cardinals bounce back and believe in him after week 1, even when he was a diva piece of turd with Kyler after the game. But I honestly, after watching it, I did think that he looked much better than he did the first game. And I watched both games. First game, he looked like a child. And this one, he looked at least big, at least athletic. And so it was definitely a breakout game that he needed desperately.
So I guess my thoughts on Marvin Harrison are, one, it was against the Rams, who might be bottom 3 secondary in the league. So I don't want to get too excited there. My biggest big picture takeaway with him is with comparing him to Malik Nabers, who we also want to talk about next. When the ball goes Marvin Harrison's way, it's not like immediately exciting. Whereas when the ball gets into Nabers' hands, it reminds me of every time the ball touches Jamar Chase's hands, where it's just, oh my God, something amazing might happen right now. Where with Marvin Harrison, he might make an amazing contorted grab because he isn't a good route runner. So in order to make the contested back shoulder throw catch, he's going to have to jump over somebody or do some crazy acrobatics to catch it. And he will, because that's what he did for 3 years in college. And those plays are going to be all over ESPN.
Right.
And people are going to love him, like they did OBJ.
Right.
But to me, unless you have that explosive playmaking ability with the ball in your hands, or you're constantly creating separation, I just think not that he's not going to be a good wide receiver. He was made out to be this messiah, the god of wide receivers and the greatest prospect in the history of the NFL at the position, I think that position is wrong. And that's what we've always been banging against, right? It's not that he's going to completely suck. It's that he's not the greatest thing ever. Yeah, I mean, there, like you said, there's still plenty of wide receivers I'd rather have on my team than Marvin Harrison Jr. But he's going to score a lot of points. He's got a good quarterback. They get to play Washington in 2 weeks, so that's another crappy defense. Even next week, the Lions defensive secondary isn't that great. He'll get some points there. But then it might be a tough run for about 4 or 6 weeks. And week 16 and 17, I see Carolina and the Rams. But other than that, I don't think anything else is a cakewalk between week 4 and week 16. So we'll see. It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Actually, I did the same thing with Neighbors, and it's not even his catches that are insane. It's, dude, he loses the DBs all game, and he just seems to find a hole where he's open, and so like there were multiple times where I'm watching him against Houston in their first game. Was it Houston? Is that right? I don't think that's right. Who did they play the first game? Anyway, I was watching their first game where they got annihilated, and he would just lose the person that was guarding him, and you'd be like, "Oh my god, that was sick!" And Daniel Jones couldn't hit him. So he's electric the whole game. I do think, and then similarly, right? Like, what do you do when someone is as electric as a Jamar Chase, an Amon-Ra, a Debo? You also hand the ball off to them, or you give them screens. And to your point, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s first TD was sick, and that's what he'll do. He'll be a Mike Williams, go grab the ball over. So it was incredible. But like, you're not going to scheme out a whole lot of, hey, here's the ball with people in front of you, be electric. So I totally agree. I mean,
he'll probably live on touchdown efficiency, which it's going to be spike weeks and down weeks.
Which if he becomes Mike Evans, what a phenomenal career, and that'd be great. It's so I'm not as, after watching this one, I was like, okay, maybe he is the third best in the grouping as far as wide receivers go. But he's definitely not 1 or 2. I mean, Rome Odunze looked freaking incredible when he was hurt.
So I think we also touched on Neighbors enough there in comparison. I don't have anything else on that one I want to say. So moving along, another player that really impressed me, and I'm always skeptical about tight ends, but I went back and, like you did, watched all of the targets for Brock Bowers for the last 2 weeks, and holy moly, it's like watching Gronk, where he finds a hole in the zone, gets the ball, and people cannot bring him down. And there's like 6 dudes hanging off of his legs and back and neck, and he just bumbles into the end zone from carrying him for 15 yards. He is as advertised. And I wish I would have not faded the whole Raiders situation so hard, because damn, he's going to be good this year if Minshew just keeps playing YOLO ball and sends it to him.
I love Minshew so much.
Right?
Yeah, dude.
After
9 for 9
game, though, like I was like, oh shoot, Minshew might not make it very far. And I mean, it's not like he played awesome against the Ravens, but he beat them.
Yeah. Well, he had a great comeback, right? Yeah. No, I agree. Actually, I mean, in our single QB, I have both Bowers and McBride, and I'm sitting here like, okay, with a hurt. I've got, who do I have out? I have Cooper out in this league, and I'm like, so do I put hours in where I had Cooper in the flex. Is that really a good play? That at 1-1? Is that and it seems like the right play. I mean, he has the most targets, second most targets in the history of a rookie tight end. They don't really have anyone else. I mean, Jacoby Myers steals a couple targets.
Well, and to
And
that point, you don't really have anyone else. So
yeah, I think I got a little anxious and
no,
I
you
jumped
got
jumped
players.
maybe 1 year early on competing, and I'm like, God
I
damn
don't
it.
think so. I think
Yeah,
you're right there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. But and I mean, and we didn't even put this guy on there, but again, just bringing it back to like, maybe we'll just I'll hit pause on one. I'll write one down for wait and see because I'm pretty pumped about one of the guys I have. I think that he's just freaking incredible, and I'm so glad that I drafted him, lost him, got him back. But anyway, so saying that, I'm really excited to see what the big Brock does. I mean, he's so good at catching the ball. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
so next up, we have J.K. Dobbins, who is averaging about 10 yards a carry. Probably not sustainable. Probably not going to repeat that next week in Pittsburgh or the following week in Kansas City. Um, to me, this one is a screaming sell high
Yeah,
in Dynasty, especially.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, Gus Edwards doesn't look good, but I don't see Gus Edwards going away. Do
he
you?
had 26 carries, I think, right?
I think he actually has had one more carry than Dobbins in both games, although he's done nothing with them. But he has
Yeah, it's
11
yeah,
and 18
11 and
versus
18.
Dobbins
Oh,
is
right,
10
because it was
and 7.
18 and 17. That's right. That's right.
Um, yeah, I mean, Dobbins looks great. Super happy for the guy.
So happy.
Would love to have him in redraft or best ball.
Yes.
Um, in Dynasty, if I'm competing, fine, I guess, but
Well, because what are you
I
going to
don't
get,
know.
right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it is a Jerome Ford situation, but to what you're saying, I just like, how can you not root for a guy who had like serious people were pumped about his talent, and then injury after injury. It's pretty cool to see a guy have this comeback. And I mean, man, I just keep thinking about how Harbaugh got so much crap for his first pick. And then he came out and said, this is an offensive weapon. And the Chargers fans were furious that he was saying that. And that offensive line, I mean, dude, we could die, but probably get 6 yards on one carry and then die. Like when they tackled
Yeah.
us, we break in all the pieces.
Yeah, they're good. Still let Herbert get bent in half, but they are they are a
I
good
think,
offensive line.
dude, it's kind of got to be on him at this point. Like I know his doctor, but every time I go into we have the same doctor. Every time I go in, I'm like, oh, my elbow hurts. And he's like, oh, Herbert has that. I was like, I'm 41. He's like 26. Tell him to relax. Throw the ball into the ground. Yeah, I don't know. I think that team could be sneaky good, especially because well, I guess the Raiders are, what are the Raiders? 1-1? The
Sure.
Raiders are 1-1. Chiefs are 2-0. Chargers are 2-0. Denver won't win a game. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to see the Chargers sneak in there. They're going to be a good team.
I don't know. I mean, let's not get too carried away. They played the Raiders and the Panthers. Get back
Yeah,
to me after week 4.
yeah. I was going to
See
say
how
they
the
have such
Chargers
a
are
schedule.
doing.
They have such a schedule.
They have a very hard schedule,
Yeah, after week 4.
other than Denver twice, which conference or division games are still always hard.
Yeah, the Steelers will be
Anyway,
tough. Chiefs will be tough, and then it's easy for a minute.
all right. Next up, Well, go ahead, since this is one of your chest pounders.
Yeah, I am so pumped about Jameson Williams, and I will say I was so technically he was drafted third, right? Um, Way back when we had Dan in the league, and Dan promised me with a trade that we did, that I could draft Garrett Wilson and he would draft Jameson Williams, and he wouldn't draft Garrett Wilson, so that like I moved back in the draft. Um, I think what's fascinating about Jameson Williams is like it's such a weird story, right? So the idea that he couldn't get on the field in Ohio State, and then he had this massive breakout at Alabama, gets hurt, comes in the league, kind of hurt all season, then gets suspended. And I think that the chest pounding is like, I got him in a couple of places in redraft this year. Um, I think what's the chest pounding is like when people forget how talented some of these people are, and they write them off in a season or 2 seasons when they're not ready to acclimate. And this is what I was hoping for Bryce Young, and clearly that's not a thing. But dude, this guy is. Thank God, Detroit's defense isn't what it should be, because I really think that they would be challenging. And thank God Jared Goff became Jared Barf again. I really think that Detroit is probably a year away from challenging the Niners for like complete supremacy of the NFC. And it's because Jameson Williams is now a legit two, which makes Laporta not.
But Goff looked really bad this weekend. Was that just like, is Tampa Bay's defense that good? Or, I mean, he looked bad.
Bad.
Really
Missing. So you know how the footballers call him the Dominator?
Yeah.
Somebody today, I was biking, I wasn't really listening, but someone today chimed in and said that they had a new nickname for him, and it's just like real bad, but it's like the Doma Pooper or something like that.
I hope it's better than that, because that's
Yeah,
not a good one.
I mean, anything with poop is kind of good. But yeah, no, it really is weird. I mean, and everyone was saying to get him because they have what, like 15 of 17 games or 13 of 17 games in a dome. Um, yeah, it's weird. He's definitely regressed back to LA days, but I don't think it takes it. It does. 11 targets is great, and Amon Ra what did Amon Ra have? Like 15 targets also. It was something
He
crazy.
threw it 55 times, so everybody had a lot of targets
Right, right.
except for Laporta.
I know. I got him in a couple, one spot actually. I was pretty out on him this year, but he's gonna be. Yeah, he had Amon Ra had 11 receptions for 119. Um, Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think James Williams, with how fast he is and how good Amon Ra is, I think that makes them a formidable duo.
I hope for his sake he can he's clear of his knucklehead years and can focus on football.
Right.
And if
Right.
so, I bet you're right. I bet he will be pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, he's so freaking fast.
A team that actually is looking pretty good, as much as it pains us to say this. However, I will say they haven't really had stiff competition yet.
Right.
They've played the Broncos and the Patriots.
Right.
But the Seahawks are, in fact, 2-0. They are leading the NFC West, as all of my neighbors like to remind me. It's great. Enjoy it.
They were last year too, right?
Enjoy your last place in the division schedule. No, I guess they were third, right? Were they third, or I can't remember. It was them and the Rams actually were close. Second.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, last year at some point they were like 3-2 and we were 3-3, so they were winning the division.
But you look around the league at these other situations where coaches and coordinators have changed, and it takes time to gel. And credit to them, they have basically an entire new coaching staff across the board, and they played well, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
the first game, I would not say they played well. They beat an inferior team, but they definitely like bully balled their way through a win in New England, which to me is always impressive to go to the East Coast and play a morning game and
Oh
win.
yeah.
So they're looking good. I really like to see Jackson Smith and Jigba get his due. I mean, why are they throwing the ball to Tyler Lockett instead of him?
I
And
know.
figured that out, hopefully. But Charby does not look good. He is definitely not Kenneth Walker. Um, he's just like huge and slow.
Yeah.
Lucky for anyone who started him, he got a touchdown, but yeah, I mean, I guess in this landscape where about 50% of the league will be injured or on IR by about week 6, maybe he's useful, but yeah, no thanks.
Yeah.
Pass.
The only way he's useful, or I think the only reason he's useful, is the streaming, which is not a thing you should be doing in Dynasty unless you're trying to compete. But he also catches the ball, right? So that was huge. And it was pretty, what I thought was really cool was the first game against Denver, it was the Kenneth Walker show,
Yep.
and they just ran. And then this game, it was, well, Sharp sucks. And so we're going to throw the ball a trillion times.
Yeah.
And
44 attempts.
yeah, and that coaching, I think, is really impressive for them to see, hey, Sharbsy ain't got it, so we'll let him run the ball 12 times, 14 times, and then we're going to throw the ball a trillion times. And that's how we're going to show that JSN is legit. Metcalf had a comeback game. I think Metcalf would be I don't know. I mean, I sold him before this week, which sucked. But I don't know, man. I don't know that this offense could sustain him. I really do think this offense goes through Kenneth Walker.
So they get a gift in Miami next week playing Skylar Thompson, so they'll probably get a win there. At Detroit, I mean, I wouldn't say it's 50-50, but there's a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get the Giants at home. They could be 4-1
Right
before the Niners come to town in Seattle to play them in week 6.
Wow.
And you could have some Seahawks fans pumped for that game.
Wow.
And then they still have 2 matchups against the Rams.
Yep. No, I mean, they could.
I mean, yeah,
9-10
they
wins.
better go 4-1 in the first 5. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Because the next 2/3 of the season, other than the Rams games, are gonna be rough.
Right.
But we were just dumping on Charby. Let's dump on another player that Nick invested heavily in last year's rookie draft.
Yeah, not a fan. Listen, I get it. I get it. The Huge had a good game. But so far into the season, he has 11 targets, a total of 89 yards. And he futzed his way to 2 touchdowns. Honestly, what's kind of weird is they should just call him a tight end, and then he'd be like a top 10 tight end. He's just a big, rumbling, stumbling dude who that Herbert looks to in tight. And it was a game that they were dominating. So they didn't need Lad McConkey. They didn't need to sit back. I mean, he's not going to dominate target share or anything like that. But I was thinking exactly that when I looked at his numbers, and I was like, just call him a tight end. I don't know. He's like the Zach Ertz, right? Like You catch the ball, you fall down. If it's in the end zone, that's rad. If it's not, meh, that was a quick 8-yard catch.
Yeah, so he had two touchdowns. The first one, I think if I remember it, he was running down the left sideline. The corner had perfect coverage, and Herbert placed the ball like underneath the cornerback's elbow. It was one of those where it just like came in. And
Hmm.
to Cuge's credit, because we've been dumping on his inability to catch the ball, he
Right.
caught it.
Yes.
But so good job on the catch. But to me, like that was one of those like holy crap throws.
Right.
The second one, the defense just forgot about him in the end zone. It was there like on the 15 or 10-yard line, and Cuge just standing there wide open for like 3.5 seconds. And
Right.
then Herbert finally looked his way. Um yeah. Sell.
Oh my god. I don't think that's possible. I mean, I think even on a beat up team, I'm starting Brock Bowers over him. I'm starting Trey McBride over him.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I'm starting. Let me make up a name. I'm starting. I don't know. Steve. Steve starts over him. Yo, Young Hoku starts over him.
But it is disappointing to see. Like I heard the same justification for Lad McConkey as well. Oh well, they didn't need to throw, so that's why he didn't get very much. I think Jason Moore was talking about this. Like he expected this. Well, they threw it to Cuge.
Right.
I mean, only two more times, but they threw it to him 6 times.
Yes.
Um. Yeah. I don't like, even in that game script, my little laddie to only get 2 receptions for 26 yards and not even be in for 50% of the snaps. Um, but anyway,
Well, I do
they'll have
think that
games.
I do think the you know the good vibes on Cuge basically means it's bad vibes on all things catching in San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he'll make mistakes and then they'll go back to laddie.
I hope so. I've got to. Yeah, I hope so. All right, on to actual bad vibes because the
Yeah.
first one is sad.
Yeah, I just don't understand these teams that go into a season with a Super Bowl aspirations without a backup QB.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, why didn't you pick up Jameis Winston? Why didn't you pick up even Josh Dobbs? Or, like, um, I think it's just irresponsible on the Dolphins' part. Now they're going to run out there with Skylar Thompson, who was horrible 2 years ago when he filled in for Tua. Maybe the game has slowed down for him a little bit, but other than Achan, you definitely have to reset your expectations. And even for Achan, you got to reset your expectations for all Dolphin skill position players. But hopefully for Achan's sake, he can get some dump offs. For Tyreek Hill and Waddle's sake, you're not excited about splash zone targets getting converted to end rounds and bubble screens. It's not good for those guys.
Right.
And not good all around, obviously, even for HN. Like the touchdown probability goes way down.
Way down.
They'll stack the box. So it's not good.
Right. Yeah. And just the whole idea that everyone's calling for Tua to just stop playing football because it's so bad. I mean, watching his hands, that was just disgusting. To another one, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but to the Rams, right? So the Rams, like, I don't even know what the number is, but it's like they've lost like 4 offensive linemen, 5 offensive linemen in the first 2
It's at
weeks.
least 3, because there was another one
Yeah.
this week.
I thought they lost.
This week
I thought they lost 3 the first game and then 1 in game 2. and no Puka, and then Cooper leaving the game, and Kyron with like the most anemic stats. I mean, yeah, they are a team to target your fantasy team against.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
and outside of that, like, ooh, yikes, that's scary. I mean, that game. I mean, really, the Cardinals game could have been one of those, Miami Denver games had they really put it on them.
Yeah, and Stafford's going to get hurt.
Yeah,
I mean, without a line, he's going to get hurt. Maybe this week against San Francisco. If not this week, probably next week against Chicago.
yeah, two great dudes.
More sadness, the Browns. I mean, everyone likes to keep piling on Watson, saying he struggled. I watched lots of chunks of this. It looked more of the same. I mean, there were some spots where he made an okay play, but yeah, it doesn't look good there either.
Hmm. Yeah, and then the new timeshare, even with Foreman not being efficient. Like, I mean, how many carries did he have? Did he have double? Is that what you wrote? He had double the carry, and so like that was the whole thing
Deontay,
with
you're referring to Deontay Foreman
over Jerome Ford. Yeah,
having twice as many carries as Jerome Ford.
yeah. I mean, and that kind of stuff just, man, they don't like. Where is the fantasy value in that team at all at this point? Is it really Jerry Judy? Like, is he?
Hopefully, there's fantasy value next week in New York versus the Giants, and then a couple weeks later at Washington. Hopefully, there's some. And I mean, the Raiders' defense is decent, but
Right.
so hopefully, week 3 and week 5 they can figure something out.
Right.
But
Right.
Cleveland, that they're in a tough division. They've got a lot of tough games ahead for sure.
They do, and I mean, I know Cincinnati's 0-2 for the third straight year, but their their schedule isn't really bad. I mean, they could be a 4-2 after this 0-2 pretty quickly, and I don't know that the Browns can do that. I don't know the Browns can keep up. Obviously, Pittsburgh is going to have 9 or 10 wins. That's what they do every season, and Baltimore's pissed off. I mean, they have to right the ship immediately too. So I don't know, man. It's a bummer. It's always easy to root for the Browns, right? Because they're such underdogs. But I don't see a lot of good coming from them right now.
Yeah, I'm just glad we got Watson off of our player profiler dynasty team.
Yeah.
So I don't have to root for the Browns at all.
Right.
I'll root for them again when Watson's off the team, but I can't root for that guy.
No.
We
Oh,
inherited
God.
a team with him on it, and it took us
Yeah.
2 years to get him off of it.
Please, Lord, let Jameis Winston, take
That
that.
would be fun.
Oh my God, that'd be so fun.
Yeah.
That guy is a walking show. I just want to listen to his pep talks all the time.
Yeah, they are motivating. I actually listened to one right before the show. Can't you tell?
Obviously, you're into it. Eating ribs.
You know who could use a pep talk before their next game? Trevor Lawrence needs a pep talk. He has struggled both games. First at Miami, and then last week in Cleveland, which the Browns have a good defense. But now he's going to Buffalo. That's not going to be easy. Then he's at Houston. That's not going to be easy. Then he's got Indy at home. It's going to continue to be a struggle, I think, for Trevor Lawrence and his long hair and giant nose.
Both those things are true. He's just picked the wrong sport. He should be in the water surfing.
Why can't we get better quarterbacks? Like, this dude's making $50 million a year. Like, I don't understand. I mean, there's So many kids in the country want to play football. Why do the quarterbacks suck? Is it them, or is it just how hard it is and how good edge rushing has gotten, or how good defensive scheming is? And, do we have to make the defenses play as one less player?
I truly, and because there's such a lack of serious talent at the quarterback position, I don't wonder so much why the quarterback is less talented because those other things that you're saying are real. I mean, I don't know. I was watching MLB TV the other day, and they were talking about how with as fast as pitchers throw nowadays, a person hitting, I think they said has 7 milliseconds to make a decision to hit the ball based on how fast it comes in, how when they can actually assess what's happening, and then the decision time is 7 milliseconds. I think it was seven, might have been 70 milliseconds. Not the point. The point is it's happening so freaking fast. People are so smart nowadays, like defensive coordinators, just defensive players. Um, I just don't know why we pay the quarterbacks what we do, right? Like, if all but 8 of them are just dudes, then why are they getting 50 million where like CMC's not getting 50 million?
Right.
Saquon Barkley's not getting 50 million. Trent Williams isn't getting 50 million.
Right.
And I think that that's the sort of like the bigger thing for me is just, and again, like this isn't what we do for a living, so people don't go to stadiums to watch Trent Williams. They go to watch Brock Purdy or Joe Montana or Steve Young, right? So, but to that point, he is as mediocre as it gets, and I don't think they need to get rid of him. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to start over with, whatever the Ewers kid is from Texas. Like, no, he's an average quarterback, and that's enough. Now you got to build around him so that he can do what they're doing in Minnesota.
Another young quarterback, moving out of the bad vibes section into our wait and see section. So I don't want to think that we're just going to dump on this next guy.
Mm.
But I think we're both in agreement on this one, or you can disagree if you want, that the jury's still out on Anthony Richardson becoming an elite fantasy quarterback, let alone NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
Certainly impressive as a runner, no arguments there. Certainly has a cannon.
Yeah.
Horrendous accuracy.
Yep. Yep. It was a little bit of a bummer, honestly. He dropped in rushing attempts from 6 to 4. So he went from 60 yards to 40 yards. Same average, 9.3. But he passed 34 times versus 19 times. His QBR the first game, even though he only passed 19 times, was 89.7. His QBR the second game was 29.1. Like, I think
That's what
that,
happens when you throw 3 picks.
and I think the point is like let a dude lean into his skill set and continue to develop him and stop asking him to do because like what was Green Day great band, what was Green Bay gonna do? They were gonna run the ball, control the time. I mean, they only won 16-10. Like, let Anthony Richardson dump it off to Jonathan Taylor, go under to Pittman, stop asking him to do, and then throw one deep to Pierce. Wait till Downs comes back, and that'll be open. But like, dude, just let him be an athlete. I mean, he's still basically a rookie. How old is he actually? He's 22 years
22.
old. Yeah, dude, plenty of time to develop. And he played 2.5 games last year. So he's played 4.5 games in the NFL. Like, I just think that's bad coaching. So I'm on your team. I'm a total wait. But it's a bummer. I have him in a league, and I went and dropped a big old fab piece on Derek Carr because I'm like, oh God, if they're gonna keep doing this crap, and he has some hard teams he's coming up against. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like it.
Chicago, Pittsburgh, not good, not
Two
good.
two good D's.
At Jacksonville, you can probably get
He'll
home
start that
there.
game.
At Tennessee, probably get something done there.
Yeah, for sure.
Miami at home, you can light them up. They're not that
Yeah.
good on defense. Jalen Ramsey's cooked. Yeah, I mean, he's gonna have some blow up weeks for sure.
Yes.
He just has a long way to go as a passer to even sniff the the Josh Allen sort of
100%.
archetype.
Yep.
So wait and see some teams that we want to wait and see on. And the 49ers, our team, that game was really frustrating. Like, to me, they got embarrassed. I thought Brock Purdy looked flat bad. Not maybe not bad, but not good. Mediocre at best. And now pile on more injuries.
What the fuck? Can they take care of their calves? Like, what the hell, man?
And Ayuk holding out all summer, like he's not up to speed.
Yeah.
They're gonna lose more games.
Yeah. I mean, the three guys that held out do not look good yet. Chase, Ayuk, CD. They don't look good. This is stupid.
They need to get it figured out and get at least Debo healthy by week 7-8 when they play Kansas City and Dallas.
Mhm.
They need to get at least 2, if not 3 wins. I'd say they need 3 wins out of the next 4. Rams, home against the Patriots, home against the Cardinals, then at Seattle, which is going to be tough.
And they should win they should win those 3 games.
Yeah. Should. They also should have beat Minnesota and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I agree. Here's a stat that I'm going to pretend is verified because it was on the internet, and the internet never lies to you. The Niners have lost 8 straight games in Minnesota.
Yeah, I heard that one on Sunday.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie. I asked my brother-in-law to put money on it. I don't know what it is. I mean, Minnesota is the underdog to root for this season in the league, and B is well coached. I mean, think about like the 4th and 2 or the 4th and goal at the 2. First of all, just take the 3 points, right? Because it's a 2, it's not the 1, and we don't have a tush push guy, and we don't have CMC, but then they don't, and so it's now 1st and 10 for 99 yards. They stop them at the 1. They stop them at the 2. No, they stopped. Sorry, it was at the 2. So they stop them at the 2. They stop them at the 3. It's 3rd and 8, and you're like, okay, this was the right call, Kyle Shanahan. And then the best wide receiver in the league scores. I mean, that's the game right there.
Yeah.
So I actually don't think that, like, I agree with you. The players blew this game. I don't think the scheme was off, but I also think that Vikings got the Niners number right now. I mean, clearly. So I'm not that worried about it. And honestly, I really hope they went into the locker room and they just screamed at each other. Like someone put his hands on Ayuk and was like, "You're a little bitch. It's time to show up. We don't have Debo. We don't have CMC. You better have 11 for 202 this week."
So those stats are fun, but dumb. Because that stat appears to span 1, 2, 5. How many games did you say? 8?
It says 8.
Okay. That stat spans 25 years.
No, it doesn't.
Yep, sure does.
Hey man, Boston didn't win for 86 years.
Calling upon the 1999 loss in Minnesota, or even the 2003, or even the 2009, 12, 18
Yeah.
Any of those are very relevant. Last year, sure, agreed. That
Got
one's
our number.
probably relevant. But anyway, just wanted to. I was just curious because those things,
Yeah, I know.
right?
Yeah. Well,
There's no correlation. There's no causation. It's just
no,
fun.
it's the
Or not
goat.
fun.
It's the goat for the Chicago Cubs. Like there was a goat in the dugout and they didn't win for 100 years. Like same thing.
Should have
Something
got rid of
creepy
that
happened in
goat.
Minnesota. Those dudes are too nice. That's probably what it was.
Hey, at least we're not the Jets.
I know. What the hell?
That team is struggling. I mean, they barely eked out a win versus Will Levis trying to hand them the win from his knees again.
I really love how YOLO he lives.
Yeah,
I,
he's got to wrangle that in. Otherwise, his career is going to be short.
well, I don't know. I mean, again, back to or quarterbacks being shitty. I mean, I don't know. Just think about Brett Favre. Like I think the media cycle's too fast nowadays, right? So
Yeah.
Brett Favre turned the ball over more than anybody in the history of the world. I
Well,
think Levis
people
is
have
still
less
fun.
patience nowadays. I mean, look at Bryce Young.
Yeah,
He don't.
yeah, yeah. He gone.
In
He
one
gone.
season, Jamarcus Russell got 3 seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure
Exactly.
Bryce Young is any worse than Jamarcus Russell was.
Yeah. No, I think what's positive about the Jets is their running game
Yeah.
is their identity. It's freaking awesome. I'm a little worried actually about Garrett Wilson. He just didn't get very many targets. Um, and
Yeah.
uh, and those targets actually, what was funny was that Braylon Allen actually hurt Garrett Wilson a ton with like short little cut routes or little crossing, and instead those dump offs, they were dump offs. It was, how many rushes did he have? He had 9 rushes. I mean, he looked incredible. But Brees Hall and Braylon Allen look like the offense right now, which is not a bad call because if your defense is as good as their defense is,
Yeah.
I mean, but there was somebody, gosh, I forget who it was. I think it was Matt actually. I think Matt was saying Braylon Allen makes Brees Hall's ceiling not elite. So, a ceiling player, I think that's who said it. A ceiling player is the guy who goes out and puts up 40 Kamara and you win the week and you win best ball and you win all this shit. And now that we know, no, we don't know, but now that we've seen that there's a chance that Brees Hall's ceiling is a 25-point week. I mean, that's not going to
Yeah.
win a week.
Yeah, I emailed Matt on Sunday night after that game, and because the way he had been phrasing it was, people are going to lose sleep over, and he kept on repeating like 4 or 5 things all summer, and one of them was Braylon Allen touchdowns,
Right.
and he got 2.
Right.
And sure, Brees Hall still got there because he got 20 points, he had 7 catches. But like Matt said on his takeaways this week, it could have been 40. You know who got 40?
Kamara.
Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
There are guys that get 40, and if he's not going to get 40,
Yes.
that is a problem despite
Yes.
him getting 20.
Yes. Agreed. Because he had a great game. He only ran 14 times.
Yeah.
14 times for 62. That's 4.5 a carry. 7 catches for 52. I mean,
And maybe 20 a game and you save him and he lasts all season. Maybe that is better than.
You're the one who always calls Shanahan a spoiled turd.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we can't have it both ways.
Well, I mean, for fantasy, you can.
See which one lasts longer. All right, Kamara or Brees Hall rest of the season? Who is it?
Oh, that's a good one.
I know. Right after this week, it gets so skewed.
That's so skewed. I don't know. I probably still lean. You really? I was gonna say Brees.
Put it on the board.
To put it on the board, I really think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I really think Saints have to come back down to earth.
Yeah, they probably will this week against Philly.
I don't know. Philly sucks at D right now. Their secondary is. You want to skip to hard passes real quick?
Yeah, and I don't know how much we have to talk about Zamir White. I was just trying to pick out ones that I'm totally done with, and he's one.
Yep. Yeah, it's a bummer. And I know that a lot of people were saying, I would listen to a bunch of stuff the last couple of days, like, don't drop him. Why? Like, well, he hasn't done anything.
Well, he's playing Carolina next week, so that's hopeful. But then again,
Madison or
I'm
White.
not sure what he's going to do against anyone.
Yeah. I'm just hoping Minshew throws the ball to Brock Bowers 1,000 times.
Well, with the red rifle on the other side, might have to.
Oh, God, that's so exciting. So, hey, that was the one thing I was going to say. I know we're hard pass on all things Panthers. Do you think the red rifle brings back any semblance of hope? I kind of think it does.
I wrote this before we knew that Bryce Young was getting benched.
Got it.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I would take Andy Dalton over several quarterbacks that are starting around the league. Let's just go through them. As a passer, he's better than Anthony Richardson.
Do you think he'll score more points?
Huh?
Do you think he'll score? So, like in Superflex, tonight's waiver, would you take him? Would you start him? So, for example, my second QB is Jaden Daniels. Would you start Andy Dalton over Jaden Daniels?
No, absolutely not. Yeah. Not any quarterback with rushing upside, no.
Right.
So maybe I'll skip over those. I was just making a caveat. As a passer, he's better than Anthony Richardson. I was just going down the list of games. I'd probably pay him over Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
I would think really hard. It would be a matchup play, right? Versus for all of these, really. Matchup call versus Watson, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff at this point, definitely Geno. Definitely play him over Jacoby Brissett. I would probably play him over Will Levis. I would definitely play him over Daniel Jones. I think I'd play him over Matthew Stafford, given the situation there. Definitely over Bo Nix. Probably over Justin Fields because his balls are tied up in a chastity belt.
Dude, Tomlin's such a good coach.
I would play him over Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was at least 10, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So and that's where you would think like 15 to 18.
It will be fascinating.
And then what's the matchup, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm not going to play him against top Ds.
It'll be fascinating to see if he has a comeback. If Carolina has a little bit of a comeback.
You remember when what was it? Andy Dalton who was like leading the league in touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. Or who was that?
I think it was Sam Darnold, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? That was Darnold. That's right.
Darnold.
No, but it was when Darnold was on the Panthers.
I think Andy Dalton spelled Bryce Young last year and threw for like 300. Yeah, one game and
360 yards at Seattle, 2 touchdowns.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, one guy is our peer pushing 45 years old. That's probably not how old he is.
He's but he looks like 36.
Yeah, he looks old as shit. The other one was the first pick. Yeah. That's bananas, man. That stuff's bananas.
Yeah, so let's look at that schedule. So they're at Vegas. That's not easy. They've got a good pass rush, but their secondary isn't great.
Right.
Cincinnati, home against Cincinnati, that's fine to me. Hopefully the Bengals torch him so he passes it 75 times.
Yes.
At Chicago, don't like that. Home against Atlanta, fine. At Washington, good.
Very good.
At Denver, so he's got 50% of the games he's going to do well.
And have a shot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, 2 things I hope come from this. I hope they get a win. I hope they honestly, I would love for them to win this weekend. Right? I'd love for them to get a win, and
Yeah.
then they bring back Jonathan Brooks faster, and then they're suddenly oddly competitive. Um, I think that's super good for fantasy. Then you get Deontay Johnson back. You have Jonathan Brooks as an option. That's what I think would be really cool is to get two very good players back in the foray for fantasy.
Yep. No, I mean, like last year, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do, but so many quarterbacks got hurt and so many key players got hurt last year. I mean, it would be like by the second half and third of the season, there's about a third ish or half of the games are like, nothing cool is going to happen this game.
Right.
This game is going to suck. Remember, like every Thursday night game was just trash.
So bad last year.
And that's not good. Like,
No.
we want
And
to
I mean,
watch points. We don't want to watch 13-10 of like Bryce Young versus Bo Nix just
right.
sucking all over the field.
I mean, it's a silly thing to say that the defense needs one less player, but baseball's done it, right? Like baseball has made it so that offense is more fun to watch. Basketball's done it so that offense is
Yep.
more fun to watch. And it's again, if we're just talking about how to tackle,
Maybe it's a handicap system because there's the good offenses don't need the benefit. So maybe
right?
just the bad teams get it. You have an average yardage or scoring
Just let the
threshold.
Niners score 80. That'd be freaking awesome. That'd be, if it takes Denver scoring 30 for the Niners to score 80, it's awesome.
Speaking of Denver, I don't know if they'll score 80 this year. Seriously.
Yeah, they're
Have
lost.
they scored yet?
I don't know. Have they scored an actual touchdown?
They definitely not this week.
I gotta look this up.
They had 20 points last week. Tells me they got a touchdown.
Was it offensive?
Bo Nix ran a touchdown in.
That's cheating.
Yep.
That's their one touchdown.
Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, it's early. I thought he would be a lot better.
I mean, and it doesn't get easier for him. They're going to Tampa, then to the Jets, then home versus Vegas, home versus Chargers, at New Orleans. Like the way the speed at which people get replaced these days, to your earlier point, I would be surprised if Bo Nix is starting in week 8 versus Carolina, which is like the first chance to do good.
It would be so messed up not to let him at least get Carolina.
It's tough though. People don't have patience.
Yeah. It
And
is.
the media is so brutal. It's wreck these kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to wreck him. It's tough. It's a tough game. He played against 2 tough defenses.
Yep, 100%. I do think, and to that, I think one thing that bugs the crap out of me is the bounce back. Like Kirk Cousins. I didn't watch any of the Jets games, so I'm not going to expound on or pine on Aaron Rodgers. But Kirk Cousins looked 100% better week 1 to week 2. More mobile. They ran play action. They was outside the pocket a couple times. Having just played once at game speed on his new Achilles.
And not playing against TJ Watt makes a big difference.
That guy was so good.
These guys need to be banned.
Yeah. I agree.
If your name ends in Bosa or Watt, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to play football.
Yeah, or if you look like what was the hell's the guy's name for the Rams? Not Darnold. That's Darnold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not fair. You're 6'9", you run a 4.6. You can dunk with your feet. You're an asshole. You need to play in a different league. There's an Avengers League, and they're waiting for you, sir.
That's what it is. Size, speed, specimen limitations. Sorry, no, you're too big.
That's exactly.
Go,
Hey,
go do bodybuilding.
we
We're playing
saw
basketball.
your statistics. I know we do the combine. We actually do a combine now to get rid of people like you. You're too good at the sport. We want athletic people, not
Yeah.
people who
If you
kill
would like to
stand-ups.
play tight end, we'd be happy to have you. But sorry,
Cannot be on the defensive side.
no.
We need Lad McConkey playing
All
defensive
Bryce
end
Youngs and Lad McConkeys
on
on
the
defense.
defensive side. I think we solved it.
And
This is
Marvin Harrison Jr. would be so good if Bryce Young was guarding him. Can you imagine that? He wouldn't even have to jump.
nope. He'd like pat his head. It'd be great. Yeah, I don't know, man. I really hope Bo Nix gets a minute. And I don't know. Just listen to the media. Like the need to be the guy making the hot take and sticking to the hot take is dumb. It bums me
Yeah.
out. I mean,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, we did it all night, so I don't
We
know. I
were
feel like we're being cool about it.
I feel like we're nice. I said nice things about Marvin Harrison. We didn't say anything nice about Huge. That's fair. I work a lot of hours and I don't make $30 million to not catch a football.
Yeah, I won't lose sleep over any of it because I just took a half a melatonin just to make sure I didn't.
Well, I appreciate you trying to be a leader on the sobriety front.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not happening on this side.
It more than anything, it's like the way alcohol just like messes with my head and my belly, and I just don't feel good.
Yeah.
You know, if I could just, I'm glad that I don't, right? You know, if I could drink more often than not and not feel bad, I probably would.
Right.
You know, but it after a couple days on the weekend, like I feel so shitty. I can't drink again, so I have to.
Yeah. It's healthy.
And it's not like I'm trying to, be like holier than thou. You shouldn't drink. It's so bad. No, it's just bad for me. Like I can't do it.
Yeah. No, I woke up odd is the wrong word, but definitely grumpy this morning. And I was good with our kids, and then we get to school and there was like ants all over because Southern California has ants everywhere right now because the weather can't decide if it's hot or cold. To your point initially, man, it is weird down here. It's beautiful this week. 78 degrees is perfect. But it was 100 last week and it's 100 next week. And the ants are so confused. And I walked into the building and I thought I was just going to fucking explode. And I was like, oh, well, I did keep pushing The Last of Us. Such a good show. God, I think that's my problem. Once I stop watching that, I'll be good.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you get to that. I'm going to go listen to an audiobook and probably fall asleep well before my 10-minute sleep timer comes off.
What are you reading right now?
For bedtime, I've been just like pumping the Lord of the Rings recently, just not because I need to listen to it again, just because it makes me fall asleep immediately.
Got it.
It's just like, yeah, click that on. I'll be asleep in 3 minutes.
Yep. It's your Nora Jones. That's what I do. That's how I go to sleep.
Nora Jones.
So, hey, I just bought Eddie this series because he's a full nerd burger. You two would have way too much fun together. And it's called Ranger's Apprentice.
Oh, yeah.
Have you read those?
I didn't make it through the first one I read, not because it wasn't good. It's just sometimes you're not in the right mood for it.
Right. So he just started. He is so pumped. And so he was like, will you read the next one with me? I was like, I've already read the first 4. Yes, I will. I'm actually really excited to go back. But it's very much like you're saying, it's like Lord of the Rings and blah, blah, blah. It's a fun one. I'm looking forward to that. I need something too, because I've been reading all these, teacher ed books and they're heavy, too much.
And we're almost into the point where we can also stop listening to so much football. Like we're almost to the it is what it is point of the
Mhm.
season already,
I
like
know, I know. The last 6 weeks is, and then maybe probably 2 more weeks, right? If you're 3-1 or 2-2, you're paying attention. Well, I don't know. I think that's the best part of dynasties. You don't really turn it off. Like redraft, you turn it off. You're like, oh fuck, I'm on 4.
the only
Okay, see you
time you
next.
can turn it off in Dynasty is, kind of like in season.
Yeah, playoffs.
Well, I'm done.
Yeah, yeah,
And just make sure I keep setting my lineup so I don't get in trouble for intentionally tanking.
yeah, yeah. No, and our league's good, man. There's a both leagues, both leagues. I don't think there's a crazy super team in either league right now, but you've done a great job creating. So
Yeah. Well, startup, that's normal, right?
right,
Because everyone theoretically starts even in a startup or close to it, except for Albert, who traded away all his valuable picks for something. Not sure yet
it's
what.
funny because he went the opposite of what I did the first time. The first time I had a super team,
Yeah.
and then everybody got hurt, week 16 or something, or 15 or something like that. And so this time I was far more tempered. But Albert was so extreme.
He went extreme. Like his point was, I'm only going to draft rookies or second year players. Like, okay, cool.
Get him.
Go get them.
Because third-year players suck, Pacheco. All right, buddy. Always fun.
I hope that we're better in our third year. I'll leave it at that.
Yes. Keep getting better.
On that note, time for bed. All right. I'll catch you later.
Yeah, my man.
Peace.